Two teams of destiny on a collision course in the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Welcome to the Dallas Stars and Winnipeg Jets official series preview.
You're Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer of 105 Through the Fan. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. Welcome to the Dallas Stars and Winnipeg Jets official series preview. I caught up with Harrison Lee of Locked On Jets, and we had an absolute blast talking about this series, the potential for absolute chaos after the roller coaster of emotions both the Stars and Jets fan bases went through in round one. The gauntlet continues in the Central Division. Going to be a ton of fun. We talked about some of the storylines throughout this one, X factors, the key players up front on defense, and of course, what are we going to get between Jake Oettinger and Conner Hellebuyck? Are we going to get the Vezina Trophy winner Hellebuyck, or are we going to get the playoff Hellebuyck where he's been a bit iffy at times? A lot of storylines, a lot of question marks, a lot of concerns, a lot of confidence, I think, as well for both the Stars and Jets. So enjoy this conversation with Harrison. It was an absolute blast, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Locked On Stars. Without further ado, here is the Stars and Jets official series preview.
Locked On Winnipeg Jets and Dallas Stars fans, thank you so much for joining us for this extra special crossover episode. Tonight we are joined by Joey Erickson from Locked On Dallas Stars. Obviously, both of our fan bases have quite honestly been through the ringer the last 72 hours. I think if you look at either Stars or Jets fans, whoever's left, wow, we probably have more cardiac fortitude than the average person. But Joey, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Before we even dive into the episode, how are you feeling? How are Stars fans feeling? It has to be a mixture of euphoria and also, oh Lord, we are going to die.
Yeah, everybody's ecstatic with how the third period in particular turned out for Dallas in Game 7. I think you hit the nail on the head. The Jets and Stars fan bases went on a roller coaster ride in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs, but just pure euphoria for both of these fan bases, and how it was accomplished in Dallas was something special too, with Mikko Rantanen basically sending his former team home with a hat trick in that third period. So I think Stars fans are almost uber confident now, which is a bit odd after coming into the postseason, losing 8 straight, not having a lot of high hopes, and then they're able to get past what I think a lot of people agree is a Stanley Cup contender, and now they have to go through this Jets team who I've said all season long, it feels like the West is going to run through Winnipeg, so Dallas is going to have to get through this new challenge.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of looking at these series like, wow, okay, I thought maybe the Blues series would be over in 6, although I said the Jets at the time. I still kind of stood by that. Did amend my prediction slightly later in the series. By about Game 5, I'm like, this feels like it's 7. So yeah. I'm glad they somehow pulled it off. They almost didn't, and I think at least a lot of Jets fans were probably writing the obituaries. But somehow, against all odds, here we are. And coming into this series, you talk about it's interesting to point out confidence amongst these fan bases, because right now I don't even know how Jets fans are processing this. I'm still not sure that they even know what quite happened last night. And for Stars fans, they've at least had another day to sort of process it. And now here we have two teams, and I don't like to use this phrase a lot because it tends to be a little overstated, but I think you've got what feels like two teams of destiny about to face off. Yeah. Dallas was not supposed to beat the Avs. I don't think anyone outside of Dallas was predicting that. The Jets, I mean, they were supposed to beat the Blues, but they were also kind of banged up, and I think we all know that Winnipeg in the playoffs, let's be honest, they turned into the pumpkin. So you've got two teams that rightly, I think a lot of folks were skeptical that they would even get this far. And coming into this series, what do you think from Dallas's perspective is maybe the biggest storyline for them against the Jets?
Well, I think it's an easy answer in a lot of ways. It's the ability of Mikko Rantanen to just take over games, and we saw that in the last 3 games of the series. And I know Dallas didn't win all of them, but Mikko Rantanen having 11 points in his last 3 games of the series is just something the Stars have really never had before, at least in the modern era, where Mikko Rantanen was just able to put the team on his back. And this is why you go out and get players of his ability. Not only has Rantanen lit up the stat sheet throughout the regular season for Colorado and such, but where he really is valuable and why he's worth every penny, he's over a point per game in the postseason. And the Stars Metroplex, the Stars fan base got to see that firsthand. It got off to a slow start. I'm not here to say Mikko Rantanen tore up Colorado the entire series, but you could just see it continuing to develop, and he finally popped off. And Dallas just hasn't had that type of elite score before. And I think maybe both fan bases could feel this way before. In years past, Dallas has had one of the better teams on paper a lot of years, but they don't have that elite player, right? Who's that McDavid or McKinnon that can take over games. And I'm not saying Rantanen's within the top 5. I don't know if anybody would, but I think he's comfortably in the top 10 somewhere. And he is that electric of a scorer. And I think that's where Dallas has a bit of an edge, maybe not an edge, but that's where they're different from years past. And you have to give some credit too. I thought he was brilliant in the series. I think if you look at a lot of the numbers out of the Colorado series, Colorado had to feel like we outplayed Dallas, but the power play, special teams, and goaltending really came through for Dallas, and they were able to punch through Colorado. And now I think they're riding on a bit on a high, but I think both teams as well have one of their best forwards and one of their best defensemen out right now too. And we'll see how that all kind of shapes out here in the next few days.
Yeah, seeing the Rantanen stuff. Thank you, Dallas, for taking out the Avs, because that was the last team that I think Jets fans wanted to see during this postseason. I mean, between them and Vegas, we just have like a nice little horror show of teams that have hurt us badly multiple times the last few years. So about time that somebody at least put a stop to Colorado's madness. But it's funny, like the Rantanen Revenge Tour was kind of like when he was available from the Canes. I thought, if the Jets have to go through Colorado, don't you want Mikko Rantanen on your roster? Like, the guy has to be pissed off, the way that his whole tenure ended. I'm thinking, that's the guy I want on my team. But hey, didn't happen. Dallas got him first. And all's well that ends well if you're a fan of either the Jets or the Stars at this point. But for the Jets, this series, if we call the first round sort of survivor, this one is going to be really Winnipeg stamping and sort of rewriting its narrative on what it is in the postseason. We haven't been to the second round in ages. There is, I want to say, less pressure than the first round in some ways. The first round sort of felt like Winnipeg was really under a microscope in every possible way, from the goaltending to the coaching to really the players. And in the final moments of Game 7, I kind of felt like something different had started to shift. This team really dug deep in a way that it hasn't had to throughout a lot of the season. There have certainly been stretches where the Jets really needed a big turnaround moment, but not like this. This feels for the franchise, in a lot of ways, a defining moment that's going to last with fans and the team for the rest of their lives. I think that was that important of a moment. And now they're coming into this opening game, not necessarily confident, but I think they believe again. I know my faith wavered with the road games. I was like, oh, God, we're doing this again. Like, really? We're doing this again? And, I didn't want to write the obituary until the last whistle blew at the end of Game 7. But, in my head, I had already started to write the same epitaphs that we've seen so many times with this team. And yet here the Jets are. Hellebuyck looked like he was finally Hellebuyck again for a couple of periods in overtime. The forwards, they didn't have like the most lethal scoring chances every shift, but they were controlling play and keeping the Blues really off balance. And so I'm hoping with what they just went through, that this is kind of what pushes them past some of the mental hurdles. If Hellebuyck no longer has the yips, which is hard for guys to get through, but if he's locked in, that could be a transformative moment, especially with Morrissey. We still don't really know what his status is. Scheifele could be back for game one. Still a little bit up in the air. They haven't even said what it was that he had, although I think pretty much everyone suspects it's concussion. So, that was a physically savage series. I don't think I watched a heavier playoff series this year. And in fact, I think back to the last few years, and I'm not sure I've seen just such a physically taxing and sort of brutal series. I mean, everyone was getting hurt. Everyone was throwing each other into the walls. I mean, it was like WWE out there. So let's just say I'm very glad that is in the past. The Blues put up one heck of a fight, and Dallas is about to give us a very, very different challenge. But amidst all of this, Joey, obviously we were going to focus on players from both teams, who's going to rise to the top, and we're going to pick one forward, one defender, and one goalie to really focus on this series. The goalies will probably be the easiest pick for all of us, but of course, for a lot of fans who are maybe wondering who's really going to rise to the top for the Stars, we will get to that in just a brief moment. But before we dive into players to watch the series, did want to shout out our friends and partners at Bear Mattress.
An award-winning mattress can change your life. I speak from experience. It happened to me. After years of uncomfortable sleeps, I recently switched to Bear Mattress, and the results were instant. Bear Mattress is designed with a focus on recovery, cooling, and pressure relief to upgrade your sleep and improve your overall quality of life. I used to deal with night sweats, but Bear's best-in-class cooling ensures optimal temperature regulation, which prevents overheating and helps me stay comfortable all night long. Bear offers a wide variety of mattresses, but to get the right one for you, take their sleep quiz that matches you to your perfect mattress based on body type and sleep preferences. Go to bearmattress.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL at checkout to get 40% off site-wide. This offer is not available anywhere else. You have to use my promo code on the very last page of checkout to get this discount. That's bearmattress.com. Use my promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get 40% off site-wide. Bearmattress.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL.
Welcome back, Locked On Winnipeg Jets and Dallas Stars listeners. Thank you so much for joining us for the special crossover episode ahead of round 2. Dallas Stars versus Winnipeg Jets. We're joined by Joey Erickson from Locked On Stars. Obviously, it's been a crazy couple of days for both of our fan bases. It's funny, we just had a Bear Mattress ad because I'm feeling like I could not sleep after Game 7. I probably could have used a really deluxe mattress to finally get some rest. I think just about every Jets fan that was in Winnipeg was probably running through the streets, even if they had work a few hours later. I don't know if they were doing that in Dallas, but I know certainly in Winnipeg they were. But Joey, we talked about some big storylines, and some of the players that we're about to talk about probably do fit into these storylines. But looking at this series, who are some of the biggest players that you feel are going to make the biggest impact between the Jets and Stars?
Well, I'll start up front, and I go ahead and throw out there Wyatt Johnston, and not many teams I think have Wyatt Johnston coming out of their 3-hole and up the middle. And Johnston had a really nice series against Colorado. I would say it was probably a really quiet 7 points in 7 games for him, but he just seems to score massive goals for Dallas since he joined Dallas just a few years ago. It's hard to believe he's only 21 years old. He scored the power play goal in Game 7 for Dallas, which eventually ended up being the game winner. He has goals in all 3 Game 7s he's played in his young career. And having him coming out of their third line, I think really just shows how much depth Dallas really does have up front. And he has to do a lot of it by himself. Right now, he's partnered with Jamie Benn and Evgeny Dodonov, and that line just doesn't really create a whole lot, especially at 5-on-5. And the majority of chances Johnston gets is really just because of what he's able to create, because he is so shifty, he is elusive, and he has a really good two-way game. He was massive on the power play too, scored a couple power play goals in the series. The power play in general was really good for Dallas against Colorado. So I think up front, I would go with Wyatt, Johnston. I would love to throw Miro Heiskanen in there, but we don't know if he's going to be back yet, and that got all pushed. So I won't go with him. I would go with probably Liam Bichsel or Alex Petrovic. That's a pairing for Jets fans. They probably have no clue who either of these guys are because, well, for the most part, they're kind of unknown. Petrovic played the last 2 years, majority of the time in the AHL. Liam Bichsel is a rookie, and he played a large chunk of the season in the AHL, and he came up towards the halfway point. He's been really good. That trio in general, or that duo, I should say, actually led the Stars' defensive group in expected goals percentage. They're not going to score a ton, but they didn't give up a lot either. And that's where Dallas really needed them to shine, is just not let Colorado run all over them for, a couple of guys that, haven't had the experience or a ton of experience at the Stanley Cup playoff level. At least Bichsel hasn't, and they held their own. If they can do that against Winnipeg, I think Dallas will be in okay shape. But we all know Dallas's depth on the back end is a bit concerning for Stars fans. That's why Dallas has to score a lot, and hopefully their depth up front can beat Hellebuyck at least enough. But as you mentioned, with Winnipeg, maybe it was a bit weight off the shoulders for them to get through St. Louis. So those are my few key players for Dallas. Probably the third pair, I'd say Johnston, and of course Otter. You need your netminder to be great.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned Petrovic because I remember back in his Panthers days. I think he got a really bad rap. I never thought he was that bad. He's maybe not the best puck mover, but he and Bichsel, I was watching some of their shifts earlier. Bichsel, so sizable. Perfect, like Jets third pairing defender. Winnipeg would probably play this guy like 40 minutes a night if they could. Glad to see him, hear that it sounds like he's doing better because I know he got a pretty rough knock I saw a couple of games ago. So hopefully, those concussion symptoms have cleared up. That stuff is never fun. But kind of looking at the Jets, up front, if I'm going to pick a player to really watch, it's going to be Kyle Conner. KFC this year has sort of been, in a lot of ways, really reborn. Offensively, he's always been good at that stuff. But he was kind of the Phil Kessel mindset for many years. Let's just say that back checking was not a specialty. In fact, you were lucky if he did it at all. He always cheats for offense, or at least he did for a long time. And I don't know how Bonus and Neal ever convinced him to do any sort of marking or even just backtracking, but it's had a real impact on his overall game. Throughout this series against the Blues, there were a couple of games where he just took over and he was the best player on the ice. And for the Jets, that's really important because, like you said, kind of like the Stars, we don't necessarily have elite talent everywhere. We don't have the craziest number one McDavid or McKinnons out there. The Jets win by committee. It's been their style for many years. Dallas, I think, has like an upgraded version of that in some ways. But for the Jets, this is a real workman-like team. For good or ill, our second line center has been Vlad Nemesnikov. So not quite what you would expect for a lot of teams, especially cup contenders. But the Jets have somehow managed to make it work. When he scored the second goal in Game 7, I think a lot of us were like, okay, something good has to happen now. If he's scoring, something has to be coming out of this. But on defense, the Jets have a couple of big picks. Morrissey being out for potentially the first game or two, who knows how long that's going to be. That changes my thinking for a lot of this series. So if I have to pick one, based on what he did in Game 7, it's probably going to be Neal Pionk. If that version of him is the version that we see throughout this series, first off, WTF, where has this been like his entire career? My guy put on like the big man pants for the whole game. And just, we've heard that stupid phrase, laying it on the line the whole couple of first games of the playoffs. But man, Pionk, like I have never seen him control play like that before. That was a game that was a masterclass. I didn't expect it to be his normal standard, but if he can somehow do something equivalent to that for a couple of games of the series, that's going to be a big deal for Winnipeg and probably for for, the Stars in some capacity. But in goal, obviously, if Otter is the easy choice, it's going to be Hellebuyck, right? Helly has really had to fight through some narratives. I'm as ardent a defender of Hellebuyck as there is, and even I was sitting there like, what is happening to my guy? I've never seen it. I don't know if Otter has ever had something quite this disparity in like playoff and regular season performance. Not to my mind. I don't know if you've seen that.
No, I wouldn't say. There's a lot of question marks about him, but I've always said, and I think, like you said, you're a really great defender of Hellebuyck. I would definitely be in the same boat with Otter. I feel like I'm always trying to protect him. But I haven't seen him go through like the yips of some kind. But there was a year where he gave up a lot of soft goals. But the disparity you're talking about, I feel like most of the time Otter shows up, which is good.
Yeah. You generally know what you're getting with him. With Hellebuyck during the playoffs, man, it's been the kind of roller coaster where I'd be happier to get off. But we're hoping that Game 7 may have just about fixed that. We'll see. But of course, outside of all these players, there's always very underrated storylines, hidden X factors. This is where all the magic of the playoffs, I guess, people are starting to put their hopes on. And with the Jets and Stars, it feels like we may actually be the embodiment of the sort of X factor and hidden storyline sort of series. No one probably thought we were going to be meeting this way. Maybe there were predictions that these two teams might advance to face each other, but certainly not in the manner that they did it. I know for a fact I did not have the Jets pulling off whatever the heck that was in Game 7. Just after the Stars did it, no less. Mikko Rantanen doing his thing, same way. But, Joey, in just a minute, I want to ask you a little bit about what you think some of the biggest underrated storylines are heading into the series in just a brief moment. But before we get to that, did want to let you know about our friends and partners at Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. They're packed with fiber and better-for-you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller for longer. I'm always somebody who likes the shelled variety. For me, it must be a Maryland thing. We've got blue crabs down here. We crack open to them all the time. But maybe you need something a little more convenient. They've got a no-shelled variety that's also perfect. You want to grab something maybe on your way to the gym. Maybe you want something as an afternoon pick-me-up at work when the 3 p.m. slump hits. No matter what, they've got you covered. They come with some great seasonings and flavors. And, of course, the Wonderful Pistachio is a complete protein providing all 9 essential amino acids. So if you want to get snacking and get cracking, make sure you do it with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Hey friends, and welcome back to this episode of Locked On Winnipeg Jets and Dallas Stars. We are finalizing some thoughts ahead of what should be a crazy series, joined by Joey Erickson one more time for today's preview episode. Joey, obviously, Stars, Jets, oh Lord, this is going to be a series, series and a half. And kind of thinking about this, are there any big surprising stats or X factors, storylines that you think that people maybe haven't talked about when it comes to Dallas's side of things?
Yeah, well, I think you may be surprised by this statistic, and you've probably heard it before, but Dallas is 0 for 8 in their last game ones. They do, for whatever reason, they do not start well in these series. And under Pete DeBoer, they have not won a game one, but it is the first time in a bit they have played on the road and haven't had home ice advantage right off the hop. Maybe that changes something. Maybe it doesn't. The last time was in the Western Conference Final a few years ago against Vegas. They ended up losing both games on the road against Vegas, both in overtime. So that is a trend I'm hoping the Stars find a way to reverse, because it makes life a lot harder when you lose game one, especially at home when you work so hard to get home ice advantage. Now they're going to be on the road, so we'll see how they fare. And I think I'm really curious to see how Dallas approaches this series stylistically, because they had to try to slow down Colorado. That had to be the way they went about their business against the Avs, because they're so fast. They play with a lot of speed, and Dallas had to try to slow those games down. I think the Jets are probably a better matchup stylistically, but Winnipeg plays a really heavy physical game. And you mentioned the grueling series against St. Louis. Is Dallas ready for that? And I talked about this a bit on Locked On Stars. I think this is a really put up or shut up series for Dallas, because we've talked about in years past when they've gotten knocked out, they need to be more physical, although really a large part of why they lost was their offense kind of dried up, but still they need to be more physical. They need to play a more heavy style of game. Well, now you got an opponent that kind of lives by that in a lot of ways, and they have the elite talent to beat you, especially on the scoreboard. And Dallas fans know that from this season. The Stars played some of the worst games against the Jets. I think Winnipeg dominated 3 out of the 4 games, and they weren't very close. So how does Dallas go into this series? How does Pete DeBoer approach this series against the Jets to try to find an edge? Because it will be difficult if you are going to be without Robo and Miro for a couple of games, which we hope come back in this series. So those are some of the storylines that I'm looking for from a Stars perspective. And if I'll give you one X factor, and then I would love to hear your Jets storylines and some underrated stories there. I'll throw out the name Marchment, because Mason Marchment is that prototypical kind of pest. He's kind of that Brad Marchand kind of guy. Like, he gets in your face, he tries to draw penalties, but sometimes he crosses the line. And he did that early in the series against Colorado. Took way too many penalties, and he put Dallas short a man. Fortunately, the Stars penalty kill has been fantastic, but we've seen Winnipeg's power play this year. It was pretty lethal. Stars don't want to get caught down a man, but I think Marchment is a perfect series for him to really feel like his game can thrive in just this kind of physical, maybe chaotic type of a series. So I think he's going to be a key player for Dallas to watch. And I think he could be a factor for the Stars to have a big series.
Yeah, kind of reflecting on the physicality of the first round, what was sort of interesting is I think for the first half of the series, especially in the away games, that's kind of why the Jets actually got themselves in trouble. In my mind, they were really chasing physicality and hits, trying to answer what the Blues were doing. And oftentimes guys would pinch in the neutral zone. And I'm like, oh, no. That's a 2-on-1 or a 3-on-1. You really can't be doing that. And Dallas, I feel like, is a team where that's just a mistake you can't make. The Stars on the counter, not a time for that to be a thing. I am curious if they're going to try and physically bully the Jets, because Winnipeg kind of got bullied by St. Louis, but in the end, I guess it didn't, end up making the final difference. But the Stars, I don't really feel like that's their game. It used to be years ago, but not now. This team is different. I think that they're a smart team that knows how to toe the line and use kind of a mixture of speed and strength. How that's going to pan out against the Jets will be interesting. Winnipeg is going to be facing a different Stars team. I feel like the Dallas that they saw in the regular season was not what showed up against the Avs. So very curious to know how maybe DeBoer's adjustments work. Very funny that he has such a bad game, or at least the Stars have a bad game on record, considering DeBoer has the world's best Game 7 record, which I don't know how that even happens. That's really impressive. I suppose we'll see if it actually goes. It does feel like a 7-game series to me. But for the Jets, I think the biggest underrated thing, aside from staying healthy, is getting depth scoring. That's been very hit or miss throughout this early round, and I don't know if it's going to be a thing for the upcoming games here. Neal finally started to make some real line changes when things were really desperate, but my guess is he probably goes back to a familiar well to start the series. Not that that's always the worst thing, but I think the way that the Jets usually like to line up is probably – there's always some trade-offs with his lineups, and certainly for as good as it was in the regular season, I always worry about it in the postseason. So we'll see if the Stars try to take advantage of any mismatches. Winnipeg having home ice is going to be a big thing. On the road, they just didn't even look like the same team against the Blues. I don't know if that's going to happen in this series. Maybe, getting past the mental, whatever it was, blockage, fog, something on the road in St. Louis will be enough to get them past this. I mean, the Blues rink was an absolute fortress. I think they won something like 15 straight there, including this series. So yeah, good Lord, not a fun time to go down there. I'm sure the Stars are not really liking the idea of starting off in Winnipeg, but yeah, does anyone want to go to Winnipeg? No airport, extremely loud arena, just a lot of chaos. But obviously I think this is going to be a very back and forth series. Give me your prediction, because I think I've got one, but I'm curious to know what you think.
Yeah. So you mentioned, you obviously brought out Pete DeBoer's Game 7 record and how insane it really is. But if this series goes 7, I just do not see the Stars winning it. I don't see them winning on the road. That's just right. I feel like one team is probably going to win it at home. And if it goes 7, I don't see the Stars having the advantage. And some of that is due to the fact I don't know when Miro Heiskanen is going to come back. He is the best player on Dallas. And Pete DeBoer came out and said before Game 7 against Colorado that even if they advance, the deadlines get pushed back. And they're going to be very careful with him. It was a major knee surgery. He's really only 3 months removed, just over 3 months. So for him to even get back at some point, I think would be remarkable. But he really is a really key factor for Dallas. So I find it hard to just sit here and be definitive. Like, yeah, if they go 7, well, they'll be okay because they have Miro back. But you mentioned I don't really I'm keen on the idea of trying to go into Winnipeg and win one of the first 2 games here in the next couple days. I think my official prediction is I'm gonna stick with the Star. I'll say Stars in 6 because I think they're gonna get the job done at home. For whatever reason, I feel like they're winning a lot of their series on the road over the last few years. I could be completely wrong on that, but they have had home ice advantage and they've had a few Game 7s and they just seem to win at home. So I take the Stars in 6. And I think it also sort of tails back to what you brought up in the first segment. Just feels like destiny. I think Jets fans feel the same way. I think I'm starting to feel the same way. I'm starting to drink the Kool-Aid a bit, Harrison. Like, they got through Colorado. Like, why can't they get through Winnipeg now? So that's kind of where I'm living.
I guess I'll take I guess I'm going to say this now for every preview. Jets in 7. I feel like that's just Winnipeg has some really stupid template now where they only win at home. Hey, if you somehow parlay that into a cup run, like, more power to you. But I would like the Jets to have a couple of road wins at some point. Something tells me that these teams are going to take at least one off of each other away. I don't know why. Yeah. I really shouldn't have any faith in that after what I saw against St. Louis, but I think the Blues were maybe a different test than the Stars are. Yeah. I was really under the impression Heiskanen was a little closer. So that is not great to hear for Dallas, but with Morrissey out, maybe it's going to be a balancing factor. So good Lord, this series is going to be, I mean, at this point, like, it's just the Thunderdome in the West. So if you survive long enough to even make it to any sort of conference finals, maybe you're going to be the anointed one for a cup run. Who even knows? But 2 teams of destiny, only one series to find out which one has the bigger destiny. Joey, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Where can folks find you if they want to follow along with these Stars adventures?
Of course, you can find us on Locked On Stars. We're free, available wherever you get your podcasts and YouTube, just like Locked On Jets. So you can follow me at Joey the Jet 19 as well on the X / Twitter thing. It's Locked On Stars as well. And look forward to just keeping up with this series. It's going to be a grind. It's all about surviving and advancing this time of year. And I don't know if the Jets and Stars played their best hockey in round 1, but here they are. I think that's a sign of a good team, right? Too. I think we can find solace in that. So looking forward to it, Harrison, and good luck to the Jets the rest of the way.
Yeah, best of luck. I think all of us are probably going to need that plus some blood pressure medicine. But
yes.
Jets and Stars fans, thank you so much for listening. We will catch up later throughout the series. So as always, have a great night and see y'all then.